I was messing about with particles the other day and I ended up creating a little something like this. This little spiral thing that looks somewhat a little bit like a galaxy, and the same principles here can also be used to make this like electric spiral effect that we're going to make today. If you want to check out both of these assets and have them for download, a link to both of these assets will be down below in the description for Patreons and YouTube members, as always. Let's start off by making a new Niagara system here, and we're going to get a new system from selected emitters, because we're going to start off, I always like having a basic start here by using the fountain. We're going to remove a lot of these things that it comes with and replace it with our own logic here. But it's a nice little starting point. So first and foremost, we're going to get rid of the gravity force and the dragging force. Then we won't be using any velocity or even a shape location for that matter. And that leaves us with just one glowing particle in the middle of our system. But it does set up the initialized particle, and the scale color and stuff like that just takes out a couple of steps for it. Now, on emitter spawn, we're going to set new or existing parameters directly, and this is going to set up two parameters that we're going to be using, both of which are going to be float parameters. So for the first one, if you press F2 on it's well selected, you can change the name. We'll call this one spirals, and then we'll add another float, and this one will be the rotation speed. I will set the rotation speed to -15 and the spirals for now to 5. These are just variables that we're going to be using in some of the math that we need to do a little bit later on, and it's nice to have these on a per emitter basis. Now, the emitter state we can more or less just ignore. The spawn rate, this you can also change to spawn burst instantaneous if you would like to. It's the difference between this, which is just constantly spawning, and this, which is a spawn burst. For now, we're going to keep this at spawn rate. Then, on particle spawn, we initialize the particle. Here we can give it a size and a color. We're going to make the size a fair bit smaller, something like between 2 and 6 or 5, just to have the particle being a bit smaller. And then every single particle is also going to get a variable for itself as well. So we're going to set new or existing parameter directly, and we'll make a float for that as well. And this float we will call distance. So every particle that spawns is now going to get a distance assigned to it, and that is how far out it is going to travel to begin with. And that is going to be randomized. So the way we do that is we just say we make a random range float, and that gets us the choice for a minimum distance that it will travel and a maximum distance that it will travel. For me, I set that to between 0 and 300, but your mileage may vary. You might want to do something else. And so far we've been doing a lot of stuff, adding numbers and all that kind of stuff, and still nothing has happened. But these are just values that we're going to need to use when it comes to the particle update, which is what we're about to dive into. Because here's the kicker, we're not going to actually use any velocity or any forces acting on these particles. We're going to manually do the math to set these things at their proper locations. And that might sound scary, but it's actually in some ways easier. Because we have a thing called rotate around point. And this will set directly the position of every single particle to rotate around a point. And here we're going to use all of the values that we've just created. And mostly in the rotation phase. But first and foremost, let's set up our rotation rate, because that is the easiest thing to do. The rotation is going to be a divided number, and we're going to divide the distance that we made. So this is the distance value that we just made in our particle spawn. And we're going to divide that by some number. For me, that was 700. Then, going down to the setup, the rotation phase we'll do last because that's the most complex. We'll change the radius, because the radius will get by multiplying the particle's normalized age, which is a value that you can just get like this. And that is just a value from 0 to 1. The particle knows how long it's going to live and it knows how far along that path it already is. So it just has a value for that. And if we multiply that normalized age by the randomized distance that we gave it, we now have a system where these particles are rotating around a point, that being this middle point over here, and the distance from that point is getting larger and larger as they age. But it is also randomized, making for this little weird arc that we have here, which is the beginning of what our first spiral is going to look like. But how do we make more than one spiral? Well, you could copy over this emitter and just make as many emitters as you want out of this, and that would work. But we can also make this just work within one emitter, because the rotation phase is the offset in the rotation around point, and we can set that for each individual particle. So that's what we're going to be doing next. The rotation phase, we're going to start off by making a add float. The A component here is going to have a lot of calculations in it, and the B component is going to be a divide float, where we're going to divide the time, which is an engine value, which is just a value that constantly keeps ticking up, and as you can see, that means that we're now rotating around. But we want to divide that value by our rotation speed value. That way we have a little bit more control over how fast this thing turns around. Now, it should be noted that the rotation speed is not really a proper name for this, because the higher this value is, the lower the speed is that it rotates at. So if we set this to like 100, it barely moves at all. If we set this to 2, it will be much, much faster. And of course, if you set this to a negative number, it will start rotating in the opposite direction. Now, time for the A component. Here's where we're going to do all the math to make this look somewhat fancy. We're going to take this one step at a time. Don't you worry about that. We're going to start by adding another one of these add floats, where we get another A component and a B component. For this one, let's start with the B component, which will be a divide float. And this is actually a bit of interesting trickery, because what we're going to be doing here is we're going to get the B component here, and that is going to be the amount of spirals that we put in. Now, this could be an integer, but I personally like setting things to float, just the way I like working with things when I'm going to be using things in calculations, because it's slightly more accurate for that kind of thing. And the A component is going to be a round float. So it is going to take in a float value and round it up or down to the nearest integer. And for this, we're simply going to take a random float in range between 0 and the amount of spirals that we put in. And now you can see it's spewing out these particles in 5 different directions. And if we go into the spirals and we set this to 3, it's only 3 directions. And if we set this to 10, it will be 10 directions, which is a little bit messy, because that's a bit too much. And the reason that this works is the rotation phase offset here. What we're doing is we're picking a random number, a float, in the range of 0 to whatever amount of spirals we have. So this could be like 3.4. And if it chooses 3.4, this is going to round that down to 3. Then what that will do is it will take that 3, which is now rounded, and divide it by 5. Meaning that it's going to either divide 1 by 5, 2 by 5, 3 by 5, 4 by 5, or 5 by 5. Those are the only real options that it's going to run into. And that's going to make the offsets all align in the same directions. Now, this last thing that we have here, the A component of the second add float, we haven't filled that in yet. And this is just here to add a little tiny bit of extra randomness to it. Because at the moment, first and foremost, we don't necessarily have a high enough spawn rate. We're going to fix it in a moment. But also, when something spawns into a direction, it's all in very much a pretty strict line, and we don't really like that. So we'll just add a random range in float. And for this, what we want to do is we want to, again, divide by float. And what we're going to do is we're going to get 0.1 divided by the amount of spirals, That way the actual random extra offset that it gets for every one of these spiral arms is going to be greater or more narrow depending on the amount of spirals that we have in total. So the spirals don't start overlapping. And we'll do the same thing here with the maximum. That is going to be the void float. And this one is going to be minus 0.1. You should technically swap these around, minimum and maximum. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So what we're going to do now is we're adding a tiny bit of randomness to the direction of our spiral particles. But this still looks quite bare and basic and not fancy and cool like the spiral galaxy that I showed you at the start of the video. Well, there's two things we need to do. First, I want to go into the spawn rate here. And for the spawn rate, what I want to do is I don't want to just set the spawn rate. I want to set this spawn rate as a multiply float where we have the actual spawn rate. Let's set it to 200. And we'll multiply that by the amount of spirals. This way we don't get thinner spirals when we have more spirals spawning in. As you can see, this is already looking much better. And right now with all that stuff set, we can even add in more spirals, like 10 of them, potentially even up to 20 of them if you wanted to, something like that. And this just works out fantastic. And that is the basic idea. Let's go back to 10 spirals here. But now we're just spawning in a bunch of circles, and that still doesn't look really like what we did before. And that is because before I wasn't actually rendering these particles. So we can turn off the sprite renderer if we want to, because we're not going to actually be using it. What we'll do instead is we'll make a new emitter. And this one I'm actually going to make an empty emitter because most of this we're going to need to set up from nothingness. And the most important thing about this one is we want to change the sprite renderer. We want to delete that and we want to use a ribbon renderer. What we're going to do is we're going to render a ribbon for every single one of these particles based on the path that it's moving along. So the way we do that is we need to come back here to our fountain real quick. And just for shits and giggles, I'm going to turn on the sprite renderer just so you can see kind of what we're going on here. And in the particle update, what we're going to do is we're going to generate a location event. So every particle update is going to generate an event that passes through the location of every single particle in this system. It does give a few issues though, because you do require a persistent particle ID, which is if we just select this whole node as a whole, coming up here to the emitter properties, we can say requires persistent ID. I should point out that this does make it a CPU only particle system. You can't run this on a GPU sim. If you try to, it's going to yell at you because it can't do that. It needs to be a CPU particle sim. So sadly, you're not going to likely use this for systems that use millions upon millions of particles because the CPU isn't going to like that. Now, in our ribbon renderer here, what we can do is we can add a stage, which is called event handler. And this will just handle events, as you would imagine. We can say our source event, and it's the location event that we're generating through this one over here. You can either set it to every particle or all the spawn particles. In this case, that really is pretty much the same. I'm going to set it to spawn particles just because that is theoretically a little bit more performant. And the spawn number is the amount of particles that this emitter then spawns at the location of what it is getting sent through. So every frame, this emitter is sending through the location of every particle that belongs to it to this emitter. And then this emitter can spawn a certain number of particles on every one of those locations. For us, that's just going to be one. But you could, for instance, also make something where every frame, it spawns in like 5 particles at the location of every other particle, which this kind of stuff gets very heavy to calculate very quickly, so do be careful with that. But there's some neat stuff you can do with it. Now that we've done that, we can receive the location event, and you will note that now we start rendering our ribbon particles. So let's actually get rid of our sprite renderer here. And now we only need the ribbon renderer, but clearly there's something a little going wrong here, because these things are staying around for way too long. So first and foremost, let's go into the initialize particle and set the lifetime for the ribbons to something much lower, like 0.2. And that's a little bit more like what we expect to see. Then of course we can also set our ribbon width to direct set, and we can set it to whatever width we want. So we can set it to being very, very slim. And in our particle update, we could even say our scale ribbon width, we could get a float from curve, and this makes it scale down in width as it ages. So it uses the curve index for normalized age, meaning that the horizontal axis is its age. So we can say, for instance, it needs to stay pretty thick all the way around, but when it dies, it quickly falls off into being thinner. Also in particle update, we're going to say scale color. I personally like to scale RGB a linear color curve, and that just gives me a gradient here to work with. So I can say, for instance, when the particle spawns in, it should be blue, and when they die off, it should be green. And I can move the green in a little bit here to make it move towards green a lot faster. And maybe when it dies, I keep it at an opacity of 25% because it's also already getting thinner as well. And maybe I want them to stay blue a little bit longer after they become alive as well. And then we have a particle system that turns from blue to green as it goes along. And simply said, now we have the basic idea of the system that I showed you in the beginning. Again, there's a bunch of things that you can do here to improve on this. I'll just show you if I get rid of this spawn rate and now I make this a spawn burst instantaneous, and I set this spawn count to something like 2500 for now, it starts to look very much like what we saw at the beginning of the video, and now it's just spawning these in a burst. And there's a bunch of interesting things that you can do with this as well. In particle update for the ribbon, we can also add some jitter for the position here, and that will make things look a little bit more electronic. When you go up close, you can see it does that with it, and that makes this kind of look. And from here, it's very much up to your own artistic interpretation as to what you want to do with it. Again, both of these examples that I have here, the basic infinitely spawning galaxy type thing, and this particle system here, which is more or less like an electronic swirly thing, I'm going to put down below in the description for download if you're a Patreon or a YouTube member, and you can check it out on your own. Specifically, this one has a bit more trial and error and a little bit more tweaking to it than what I've been able to show in this video. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,